A statement aboard Air Force One that miscast Donald Trump Jr.'s June 2016 meeting with Russians in Trump Tower. The circumstances surrounding the meeting, as well as the firings of FBI Director James Comey and National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. There may be more as well. Meantime, more presidential tweets. In addition to defending his phone call with Putin, the president enlisted some Ivy League help in his defense. The president citing Harvard Law School's Alan Dershowitz, quote, "Special counsel is told to find crimes, whether a crime exists or not. I was opposed to the selection of Mueller to be special counsel. I'm still opposed to it. I think President Trump was right when he said there never should have been a special counsel appointed because there was no probable cause for believing that there was any crime, collusion, or otherwise, or obstruction of justice." So stated by Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz. We happen to have Professor Dershowitz with us tonight, which we're always very pleased about. And we should mention he's got a new book out, The Case Against BDS, Why Singling Out Israel for Boycott is Anti-Semitic and Anti-Peace. With us as well as CNN chief legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin. So, Professor Dershowitz, you say that President Trump is right to say that special counsel should never have been appointed. Can you explain that? Because he is very publicly echoing your argument.
Well, he paraphrased what I said. I wrote it in an article on The Hill, and as long as 10 months ago, I wrote an op-ed entitled "A Special Counsel is the Wrong Way to Uncover the Truth." I've always believed that. I think the issue here is Russia's involvement in the American election. It's a systemic issue. We should have appointed a bipartisan, nonpartisan commission like they do in England and in Israel to do an open investigation, which the public could see, about Russia's involvement in elections and how to stop it. Instead of doing that, we appointed a special counsel whose job was to find crimes. Whether there were crimes or not, we still don't know. Collusion is not a crime. Obstruction of justice may not be a crime if the president engages in it as part of his constitutional authority. So I still take the position that it was a mistake to appoint a special counsel, that an investigating commission would have been better. The fact the president quotes me is not something I control, obviously.
So, Professor Dershowitz, do you want to see the president order Rod Rosenstein to fire Mueller?
Oh, no. I think it would be a terrible mistake to fire the special counsel. There's a big difference between making a mistake and appointing one and then firing one who's very, very much in the process of conducting an investigation. That would be a terrible, terrible mistake, and I think it would raise very serious constitutional and other ethical questions.
Jeff, was it a mistake to have Mueller in the first place?
Not only wasn't it a mistake, it was required. It was mandatory if we want to have a legal system that deserves any respect. Let's think about what Robert Mueller has done. On January 24th, Michael Flynn lied to the FBI, as he admitted. He pleaded guilty. Could we have had Jeff Sessions prosecute Michael Flynn? They campaigned together for Donald Trump. That's why we needed a special counsel. George Papadopoulos, same thing. He worked for Jeff Sessions in the Trump campaign. Could Jeff Sessions have prosecuted him? Of course not. Alan, I don't know what is going on with you, but this is so obviously a conflict of interest, and this was the only way to resolve it.
Well, no, there's another way to resolve it. You have the Justice Department, with a recused Attorney General, do a standard investigation. The Deputy Attorney General is not recused. He could have conducted the investigation. Career people in the Justice Department could conduct the investigation. The big difference is when you appoint a special counsel, you put a target on the back of individuals. He had better find crimes, or else he's wasted the taxpayers' money. That's not true of the Justice Department. If the Justice Department does an investigation and finds no crimes, that's a ho-hum story. But if the special counsel does an investigation and doesn't find crimes, that's a big deal. That's why he has to go after the low-hanging fruit. He has to go after friends, associates. That's what happened with Clinton. They couldn't find anything with Whitewater, so they went after him for an affair in the Oval Office and perjury during deposition. That's the problem with special counsel. It's not a good thing. That's not me speaking. Half the academic world has been opposed to special counsel. Half the judiciary has been opposed to special counsel.
Your position is there should never be a special counsel ever for any case.
Almost never. In fact, what I'd like to do is see the Justice Department have a special unit that is separate from the Attorney General's office. Most countries don't need special counsel because they have a director of public prosecution that is apolitical. We have a situation where the Attorney General is both an advisor to the President and the Chief Prosecution Officer. That's the only reason we need special counsel. We're the only democracy in the world that has special counsel, and it's a bad approach.
How has this come about that in every situation over the past year you have been carrying water for Donald Trump? This is not who you used to be, and you are doing this over and over again in situations that are just obviously ripe with conflict of interest, and it's just like, what's happened to you?
What conflict of interest? I attacked President Trump.
Not you. I'm talking about not your conflict of interest, these conflicts of interest.
I attacked President Trump for his banning of Muslims. I attacked President Trump for leaking material about to Russia. I've attacked President Trump for many, many things. I'm not carrying his water. I'm saying exactly the same thing I said for 50 years. And Jeffrey, you ought to know that. You were my student. I have never deviated from this. I have never deviated from this point.
But you know,
now, the fact that it applies to Trump now, rather than applying to Bill Clinton, is why people like you have turned against me. Don't you understand that principle requires bipartisanship and nonpartisanship? And that's who I am and have always been.
But we have a system in place where, you know, you don't like grand juries, you don't like special counsels, but you know that's the
I'm a civil
the law.
Libertarian. Civil libertarians
but you know,
criticize the law.
But you are criticizing it in the context of, you know, position after position that is in support of exoneration of Donald Trump over again.
Look,
I mean, come
I have
on,
no
Alan.
interest in whether Donald Trump is exonerated or not. If the evidence is against him, I will be the first person to call him out on it. I am asking for non-criminalization of political differences, narrow construction of the criminal law, civil liberties to apply equally to Democrats and Republicans. What you accuse me of is not being partisan. You want me to have a different standard against Donald Trump than I did in relation to the Clintons and with everybody else. I said the same thing about Bob Menendez. I said the same thing about everybody who has been prosecuted. I'm saying the same thing about Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel. I think there's criminalization of political differences there. I have been utterly and completely consistent and nonpartisan, and Jeffrey, you haven't.
Professor Dershowitz, let me just ask you, you talk about having sort of a nonpartisan permanent office in the Department of Justice, not going outside with a special prosecutor. But given all the attacks by this president on the Department of Justice, on the FBI, all the criticisms of a deep state, allegations of a deep state, if there's a permanent bureaucratic class within the Department of Justice which is doing these investigations, that seems like it's a ripe target for those who, you know, want to make accusations about a deep state.
Well, the president's wrong about that. I have to tell you, I wish John Brennan, who was the former director of the FBI and who I have a lot of respect for, I wish he hadn't come out and suggested that maybe they have maybe they have something on President Trump. Because if a media person does that, that's fine. But the former head of the CIA, who knows all the secrets and has had access to all the wiretaps, when he says maybe it's possible they have something on him, he damn well bet. Right. Because if he's not right, he's creating an impression that because of what position he held, he really knows what he's talking about. Now, I'm not in favor of all this conspiracy talk about the deep state. I want to see a system where everybody is treated exactly the same, whether they're a Democrat or a Republican. I want to see a nonpartisan approach.
And that's the system we have with independent counsels or special counsels. I mean, look at, you know, it's fine to talk about Robert Mueller in the abstract, that, you know, the risks.
I like him as a person. I think he's a very good person.
But let me finish, Alan. Alan, let me finish. Look at the record of what he's compiled. Cases for making false statements, cases for conspiracy to defraud the United States under 18 U.S.C. Section 371. These are routine cases, the routine statutes used by prosecutors, and that's right. And because he is applying the legitimate standard. No, let me finish, Alan.
Any Justice Department official could have done that. You don't need a special counsel to go after low-hanging fruit like that.
You are saying Rod Rosenstein, who you are suggesting could have supervised this. Rod Rosenstein was the person who said, I can't supervise this. I need to appoint an outsider. Rod Rosenstein, who is a professional prosecutor, career person, he understood that even though Sessions was allegedly recused, although he seems awfully involved in these cases for someone who's recused, But he understood that for the integrity of the justice system, for the perception of fairness, there had to be a special counsel, an outsider, that was right.
I got to jump in and end this. I'm sorry. It's like a master class at Harvard. You don't even need to pay a Harvard school education salary, tuition for Harvard.